We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass.
Proceed.
Okay, sir. So I have our chief accountant, Ms. Joy Sidia, present here. Next to me, I have the regional engineer, K1 Suchit. Right next to him is our EPMA, Ms. Portia Jacobs. At the back of us, I also have with me our current acting DREO, Ms. Yvette Safaris.
Could you please raise your hands when she calls your name? Yes.
And our regional health officer, Dr. Ranjeev Singh, and our SPO, Ms. Vanita Narayan. And additionally, our PS is here, local government PS is here as well.
Okay. Far right. Next to the PS.
Next to the PS is Mr. Rupal.
Okay. And what's his post? Who was the former Mario? Okay.
He is a technical assistant.
Is the former REO with you for 2016?
No, chair, no.
All right. So PS REO, we would have taken a posture of the PAC to inform all accounting officers, or matter of fact, to remind them about the laws of Guyana, particularly the Legislative Body Evidence Act, Chapter 108, which speaks to every person examined under this act who willfully gives false evidence shall be guilty of perjury. I said that to say to you, if you are unsure of a response, just say that you're unsure. We don't want the PAC to be misled by any accounting officer that comes before it. All right?
Understood.
Members, we have.
Want to know what happened to the former REO? What the PAC usually invites as well. Did he respond? Did you find him?
Yes, I did in the announcements. I did indicate that those former accounting officers were written to. I cannot say if they.
Is that Mr. Hopkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkinson?
Yes.
Chair, may I inquire if the current REO would have reached out to Mr. Hopkinson to facilitate him at her office so as to at least caucus and bring clarity to these matters that we are about to raise before her. And that is because I am aware that this current REO is just a couple of months in office. And I'm preempting that it may be a little bit difficult to answer some of the questions. So I want to know if there was any caucusing with the former REO.
Through the chair, in response to your question, I have not gotten into any contact with him via phone call or face-to-face. I was unable to do same. However, when given the phone call to attend PAC, I had asked the person on the other line if they can contact my ministry directly, my PS, and ask if they could work from that level to see if the previous REO, if they could inform him or if they could get onto him, because from my level, it was not fruitful.
But you attempted to make
We
contact.
attempted.
Okay. Okay, let me thank you for your efforts, Madam Ario. Members, we have 26 paragraphs for our consideration. 681. 26 paragraphs. It's on. Yes, yes, it is. At the 11th meeting. So members, I put 656 to 666 for our consideration. The floor is open.
Thanks, Comrade Chair. Chair, I turn your attention to 658.
Yes.
That speaks to overpayment. May I ask the accounting officer to indicate to us how is it that overpayment happens in this region?
Through the chair, if I must say, I would not be able to explain at that time what took place leading to the overpayment, but I can say at my point in time, sitting at the RU, we would be following procurement regulations to avoid same payments based on measured work. So I am not in a position to answer it prior. Sorry about that.
May I ask if the staff that are accompanying you here today were staff at the region during the year 2016?
Yes, we have a few staff that was there, but they too were not in the capacity at the time in those positions leading.
No,
to
ma'am.
the
No.
division.
Is there a deputy REO?
Can you say who are the officers, the positions that
Okay,
are
at
with
the-
you currently?
Sure, no problem. At the time in 2016, we had Miss Yvette, who
Was-
is presently the DREO acting, and we had the engineer right next to me, Kevin Suchet, and our EPMA, Miss Portia Jacobs.
Good. So can we therefore, Mr. Chairman, turn the question to
Yeah. So what were the positions? Are they holding the same positions that they had in 2016 as of today? Or
Well,
they might be
the present engineer is now the regional engineer. At the time, he was not the regional engineer.
And the DREO.
She,
What was our force?
the ARU.
She was the AREO.
She is actually the ARU.
How about acting deputy?
Chair, may I request of the accounting officer to ask the engineer present to answer the question that was put, reference to how is it that overpayment happens in this region, particularly to para 658.
Noted.
To the chair, I'd like to respond to 658. Basically, the project site was in the Globe Annex.
Could you speak up, sir?
Yes. Based on the project, general repairs to teachers living quarter at Globe Annex, that's in the Supanam Creek. The location, based on information from the previous engineer, it wasn't one that we had supervision like on a daily basis. So the overpayment went for a concrete base that wasn't constructed properly, and some overpayment on some sheet lots. So the overpayment was only noticed when the audit office team visited, and we have since written to the contractor several times, but we were unable to recover this overpayment of 114,000.
All right. So the question is, in 2016, how many engineers were there at the regional administration, Region 2?
2, sir.
Yourself and the senior engineer.
Yes, sir.
So these projects, do they not require regular and frequent visits by the engineer?
Yes, sir, they do.
And you were saying that this was not frequently visited.
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you just gotta get reiteration. It's good for the soul. And can you say how is it that a certificate of completion was generated for this project to begin payment to the contractor?
So after the works are completed, then the engineer then would have visited and do the measured works and prepare a certificate.
Were you the engineer who was responsible for that final check?
No, Mr. Chair.
Were you involved in any way in that process?
This project.
Being only 2 engineers in the region. And
Not for this project, Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Can I ask the REO? Sorry, you
Go ahead, Mr. Padre.
sorry, Ganesh. Go ahead. Can I ask the REO, the contractor, I mean, your engineer, who's now your acting chief engineer, I suspect, has said that you've written to the contractor on several occasions, without any success. So can PSC ask the name of the contractor, and when did you write to him? What responses you get? And thirdly, is the contractor still active in the region with this indebtedness? Thank you.
Noted. Through the chair, the contractor is Mr. Cart Beaton. A recent letter was sent November 5th. Prior to that, we have January 4th and March 8th, 2021. And no response from him. He has not acknowledged the letters or physically visited the office. And to my knowledge, no project was recently given to this said contractor, to my knowledge.
Chair is to the REO, is there not a works committee in place that is supposed to also put their signature on a document before this 2.363 million was paid in full to the contractor?
Correct, sir. We have that system in place that I know of, that I'm working with, but I'm unable to say what had happened in 2016.
No, but there should be some documentation in the office that you can put your hands on to show the paper trail that led to the payment of 2.363 million.
Correct, that is true. I will ask if it's possible for me to do a follow-up and probably produce those documents to you. I don't have those.
So may I ask if with reference to all these other paragraphs, were you able to, or did you attempt to search for paper trail so as to pick up them so that some degree of clarity can be brought?
Yes, we did so. The staff would have assisted me. We have some evidence, but not most was not found. So we did look, but we just found.
But no
portion.
attempt was made to look for paper trail reference to 658.
Yes, we did look for tender board matters relating to these, but I was not able to find any at the moment to be able to present here today.
Ario, the engineer that signed off on that project, he no longer works in the region?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any idea where he is?
No, sir.
No, but sir, with all due respect, I find it very strange that the REO can conclude that that is the engineer that signed off on the project when she is not in possession of any documentation to show who signed off on the project.
Well, based on the present engineer, he indicated earlier that there was only 2 engineers in the region and he didn't sign off.
Anyone could have signed it.
He didn't sign off. Was any attempt made by your office to invite the former regional engineer to the PSC?
No, Mr. Chair.
Are you aware that this engineer is residing in Region 8, working for the Regional Democratic Administration there?
No, sir, I'm not aware.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, 659,
Before if I want to just follow up on 658, can this current engineer tell us what is the current procedure that is being used so as to mitigate reoccurrences of overpayment to contractors?
Through the chair, we implemented a method of measured work, and we are sticking to it. We are ensuring that all work certified are being paid for, and we have done some training sessions with our superintendent of works, rangers, and so on, to let them have more knowledge on the technical aspect of things, so they would know what they are looking for, and we would avoid these overpayments like this. All the works committee also signs off on these payments, on the final payments, sorry. So that's our method we use right now.
Chair, you indicated that you have implemented measured work. Are you saying that measured works were not there all the time?
Sorry, sir. Yes, it was there all the time, but we are now being more strict on it. We are ensuring that it's being done according to the procedures.
So you're the senior engineer of the region?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. When did you assume the position senior engineer?
2018, sir.
2018. So can you what I want to get at is that I'm finding it strange, and I'm going to say this for the benefit of yourself going forward, that in examination of these Auditor General's report and the findings, we are picking up a number of overpayments to contractors, and it dates back way before 2015. So assuming that it is only 2015 to 2020 is not what I'm talking about. It's something that is reoccurring frequently. And I believe that once the engineering department of these agencies do what they have to do, and that is to visit the site, measure the work, and then generate that certificate of completion or hold on the work until the bill of quantities are satisfied, then is when the certificate of completion should be generated to start the processing of payment. What I have found is that many times the accounting officers, they are basically asked to answer for some technical things like those when it requires for technical office at the level of the engineering department to just do what is right. So I'm just saying that for your guidance going forward. And I have taken note that you became the senior engineer in 2018.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Comrade Chair.
Member Patterson?
659. The audit also found that the incorrect specification of block was not used for the base of the trestle, which is the same living quarters in Good Hope. Can you give us an update? Obviously, did the contractor subsequently correct it? Is it up and functional? Pardon? So, pardon me, Madam Chair. Yes, right. So, and if not, what has the region done to ensure that the trestle for the building, those things is safe and functional?
The contractor didn't do any corrective works to date, despite we wrote him several times. But what the region has done so far is connected the plumbing system to the schools, for which the freshwater network is there.
In other words, you're saying that you don't have a trestle because of the study work which you accepted, the region accepted by the contractor, and paid for. You have now decided as a region that you will no longer supply water via trestle. Why did the region make the decision in the first place to have a trestle if it was unnecessary?
So, because we wanted a separate trestle for the living quarter. The living quarter and the school are in the same compound.
Right, you wanted a separate dresser for the living quarter. You went out to tender. You had a recalcitrant contractor who you've written to a few times, but you received no follow-up. He produced effective work which was unacceptable and inoperable. And because of that, you have not rebudgeted, corrected, or what, you just simply abandoned your original idea because of the contractor. And because you can't recoup the money, which you signed up for and you certified and everything like that, the engineering department. Have you made any recommendations to properly equip the staff for the living quarters?
Well, it's connected to the school's network, but we will follow up with that and ensure that the defects are corrected.
Madam Chair, you have the floor.
At 659, I want to go back to a question I think that Mr. Paul started to raise. Could you just in principle tell me if the Regional Works Committee is functioning? Because it's not only engineer who's supposed to sign off or to inspect. The Regional Works Committee is supposed to make periodic visits to projects in the region to also verify what is the status of the project. So in 2016, I go back to the question, was the Works Committee in order? And two, in relation to 2021, is the Works Committee now playing a more active role in monitoring the projects that are ongoing in the region?
Through the chair, to respond to your question, ma'am, I would not be able to answer accurately for 2016, but as of present year, yes, we have an active Public Works Committee and they do visit to these sites. And of course, they sign on before any payment is made, the chairman of the said committee.
Were you able, so you weren't able to find, just to go over something in my mind, you weren't able to find any record that showed whether in the Works Committee minutes and or by the engineer who signed off on the project. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not at the moment. Weren't able to find or locate anything.
And you haven't found in the minutes of the Works Committee either?
No, ma'am.
Did you look? I mean, so you saying how you actually physically looked through all of them and you found nothing, or you haven't looked through it yet? Please be clear for PhD.
We look, sir, but I can still do a follow-up.
Chair, I think it is necessary for us to, and in all fairness to the accounting officer, if I may ask, how many months have you been as the REO now?
August, September, the REO from that portfolio. The previous REO went on leave and I was asked to act in his absence.
So you're currently acting? Sir?
Currently acting.
Okay, and what position were you holding before that?
The DREO in May of this year.
Okay, right, and
Region
before
2.
that you were at the region also?
Not at Region 2, no.
Another region?
All right, engineer, I direct this question to the regional engineer because he was there. Was there a work committee in place in 2016?
Chair, I know of the Works Committee in place, but
Can you speak into the mic, sir?
Yes, Chair. In terms of the Works Committee being there, yes, I know it was there. They had meetings and so on, but I won't be able to say if they signed on the payments. That would need to be verified.
So there was a committee in place.
Yes.
And you have indicated to PSC that under your tenure, you have instituted training. Is that training involve members of the Works Committee?
Yes, sir. Yes.
What training is that? Are you
basic concrete mix, for example? We show this off because they are not they don't have much idea about concrete. Like
they're not very technical.
No, not very technical.
So if they're not very technical, can they read the scope of work and understand it? Have you done any training for them to read and understand the scope of work?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we did training like that. We explain to them the scope of work and the technical aspect of it, the technical specifications outlined in the BQ.
In the scope of work?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
But
Chair,
Ms. Finance, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we're outlining that the Works Committee is also supposed to sign off, right? And also the current accounting officer is saying that she would not be able to say whether or not the Works Committee in 2016 was active and doing what they were supposed to do. Mr. Chair, I believe we have the AG's office, representatives of the AG's office here, and that question could be answered immediately because I would assume if there was a lack of any signing off on documentation from any committee whatsoever, that would appear in the AG's report. I'm not seeing that here. So could the AG say whether or not there was a functional Works Committee at the time of the audit of the 2016 report at Region 2?
The chair, I didn't get a question. Sorry, Honor. Through the chair, I didn't get a question clear.
Ms. Finance, could you repeat your question?
We're saying, sir, that the Works Committee, a representative from the Works Committee is also required to sign off on these projects and not just the engineers. The question was put to the accounting officer whether or not there was a functional Works Committee on 2016, and the accounting officer responded because she is new, rightly saying that she would not be able to say because she's now there. She's saying right now she can give clarity that the current Works Committee is up and active, but I am saying that the AG's report and the office of the AG would be able to say whether or not there was a functional Works Committee at 2016, because if there was a requirement for any signing off to be done by representatives of that Works Committee and it was not done, then that would have been stated in this report. And I'm not seeing that there. So I'm asking, sir, for the AG's office to say whether or not there was a functioning Works Committee 2016.
I can add some clarity on that, Ms. Finance. The ministry had in place that all regions must have established work committees, and before payments is issued, the Works Committee must sign off on it within a prescribed time.
Correct, sir. That is correct, and that is why I'm bringing clarity to it, because the question was posed, and I just don't want the question to go down like that. The question was posed whether or not the Works Committee in 2016 was active and doing what they're supposed to do, basically, and signing off. So that is why my question is put to the floor.
Yeah, but I agree. But the fact that payment was put, it involved the signature of members of the Works Committee.
That is correct.
Yes.
So at the level of this committee, then it could only be our understanding that there was a fully functional Works Committee in 2016.
Yes.
That is the clarity I was bringing. Thank you.
Member Maipa, you have the floor.
Chair, this is a 2016 report that we are dealing with. So and this report came out in 2017 of September. And we had the year 2018, the year 2019, the year 2020. And Region 2 is well aware that we are dealing with 2016 report. And our last PAC was sometime in 2018. So the entire 2019 and the entire 2020, and we're here now in 2021 coming to a close. And this report was a back and forth between the region and the AG's office before what is in here comes to front. So I am saying that there was ample time for the region to basically be equipped with the information to answer pertaining to these queries. And I'm finding it a bit strange to hear some of the answers that we've heard. So I think it is important, sir, for us to have the former REO and if possible, because the former engineer of Region 2 is actually in the system at Region 8, I was guided there, to be present to answer these queries, because based on what I'm seeing here, I'm being told that the former engineer of Region 2 is the one who facilitated this payment to generate the certificate of completion, and that engineer is in another region. Then we have to know if it's we at least need to know what is the procedure that he's using, and if such is still happening in the system, because I believe our job is to provide some degree of guidance and also to ensure that the checks and balances are in place. And I mean, the former engineer is at another region in the system.
Yes,
But
I
don't
agree.
think my request finds
But
favor.
one, this former engineer wasn't, no request was made for him to be present today. Efforts were put to the former REO to be present, but he's not here. But we still have to continue the scrutiny, and I take note of your point. It is indeed valid, but we must move on. Madam Tishir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a letter that was written by the RDC, then REO, Mr. Rupert Hopkinson, dated January the 14th, 2018, to the PAC, in which he goes paragraph by paragraph. Whether his answers are satisfactory is a different issue. But in relation to 658, he stated the Public Works Department has written to the contractor for the second time seeking recovery of overpayment in addition to payments for project issue without physical verification made by engineer to ensure the work is in keeping with specifications. The Public Works Department has also taken steps to formally notify the Regional Tender Board of contractors whose performance is poor. 659, the Public Works Department has written to the contractor for the second time seeking recovery of payment. So I think we have to look at the response of the former REO, which is in writing dated 2018. There are no backup documents for his letter, as well as having the presence of the region here with us today and what's in the 2016 audit. So in fact, in terms of some of the issues Mr. Paul is raising, the REO was asked, I believe, by the former PAC, and these were his answers. Whether we think they're satisfactory is a different issue.
Chair, it comes back to what we were talking about the last time, where we stopped at a particular paragraph, and then the requests, the answers are here for all the remainder. So, I mean, if we're going to accept this to as is to entirety, then we have to stick to it. Because I remember the last time we met, when I think it was Comrade Edgil, and the PS, the former PS of Ministry of Communities, had provided answers for all the paragraphs, even though they were not examined as yet. And I think he made a big hullabaloo out of that. And now we have a similar situation here where answers are provided for all the paragraphs that were not examined either. So if we're going to accept that this is how we're going to go forward.
No, but this Region 2 started in the last
Ministry of Communities started also.
I'm not here to argue. I'm just helping you out. Mr. Chairman, can I go on to the next paragraph?
No, but I understand that. If I may
I would like
finish,
to go
I'm
on
saying,
to.
Yeah, but Madam Tishir, you have to wait till the member finish. Member
Yes.
I
Michael.
thought it was helping you, but it's
No, but you-
taking a
Well,
different.
you have to do it, Member
we
Michael.
cannot as a committee,
You
sir.
can't do it in
Make your
absentia
point.
of
No, but
data
as a
that you have.
committee, we cannot accept
you
one
have
practice for
information,
one
use it.
day
What is
and
it
a
that you're
different practice
recommending?
for a second day.
What is it that you recommend?
I'm saying
I
that
don't know
if
what
we're going to
he's
accept this
You're
as
running
is,
circles.
whereby we're
No
going to
one's
use
saying
this.
that. No one's saying
No,
to
but
accept it.
Comrade
You're
Teixeira,
using it.
with
You're
all due
ignoring it.
respect,
You're
I'm not ignoring it.
it.
I am doing
Member, can we have
exactly.
some order here, please?
Chair, I'm doing exactly.
Yes.
Chair, I am doing exactly what Comrade Edgil was standing firm for at the last meeting. The last meeting, the Ministry of Communities to the former PS provided answers for all the paragraphs, even though the paragraphs were not examined. And it was Comrade Edghill who created a big hullabaloo saying that we have to deal with what we have. So I'm saying that now that we have this, we have to decide whether we're going to adopt the same rule. We have this here with all the paragraphs, then let's go with that then.
Mr. Chairman, and as you just my misrepresented. The issue I'm saying is that in relation to this paragraph.
Relations paragraph, all I was doing to help. I wasn't saying that you have to take it for truth or any other thing that he's talking about. I'm just saying that I thought he forgot. I must never think that Mr. Mayapal forgets he has a document in front of him. Maybe in the future, he can search for the next 10 years. I will not help him out. I just thought I was helping him because the regional attorney, REO, has said exactly the same thing that is written in the document. Now, whether she's repeating it or whether she came from her own volition, I can't judge that. What I'm saying is that some of the issues he's goateeing. Mr. Mayapal loves to goatee issues in this PAC. And there are other issues that are actually much bigger issues under Region 2 that we need to address, such as 226 check values not being dealt with. And he's goateeing $1 point something million. We've made our position clear. We are not in difference with each other on it. The regional returning REO has to come back. Did the public works check it out? You're assuming that, but we'd like to see evidence of that. Who was the chair, what do you call the engineer who went there? Okay, there's no way you're goateeing on and on. You can't get further on the issue. Go to the next paragraph. You can't make something happen if she doesn't have the documents.
All right, Madam Finance, you have the floor. Thank you very much for your assistance, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I actually was just going to try to bring some clarity to this because I believe I spoke about the same matter at our last meeting that is being referred to. I believe the issue that we had at the last meeting was actually going back. That was the issue we had at the last meeting, that Mr. Edghill wanted to go back to some matters that was examined before. And the PSC made a decision that we're just going to move forward from what we are to examine. And what Ms. Teixeira is saying, rightly so, I'm agreeing with you, Ms. Teixeira. What she is saying is that we do have responses here from the former REO that we can go with the paragraphs that we're examining. And based on the precedents that we have set before, Mr. Chair, all we need to do is if the responses coupled with the responses of the officers here is not satisfactory, then the paragraphs can be left open for us to examine and seek further clarity.
Good. Can we move on?
Yeah.
You have the floor, Madam Chair.
662, Mr. REO. 662 refers to 76 living quarters owned by the regional administration. 14 of these quarters are occupied by persons for which no rent was being received and there was no documentation to substantiate the entitlement to rent-free quarters. So that's 662. Could you say if the issue of, could you say whether the persons still occupy these places? Were they ever, did you find the documents to do which entitle them to rent-free facilities? And were the 14 persons all employed by the regional Democratic Council and or assigned to by a ministry in those government quarters? 662.
Through the chair, in responding, presently we have 9 persons paying house rent.
That's not a question. Can you please repeat the question?
This is 2016. This is 2016. Yeah, go ahead. Let us speak.
Okay, I was trying to get to the point of what. Anyways, I will answer as it is being asked. So
why?
So in 2016, that's my thing. I cannot answer accurately for 2016. Right. So I was trying to incorporate presently what is happening in reflection to 2016 question.
No, that's answer the question for 2016.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
The
can I
question
just,
asked also had a contemporary aspect of it. I think
No,
the REO was
no,
was
no.
calling.
yeah, in other words, that's my
Okay,
question.
Madam Chair, could you please repeat the
Yeah.
question?
Of the 14 persons who are not entitled, one, did you find any documentation to show what they were doing there? In other words, were they sent by another ministry? How did they get to be in a place that paid no rent with no documentation? Secondly, of those 14 persons, are any of them still in the system and are occupying quarters? And do you now have documentation for those persons who may still be in the quarters? And the other question, which may be difficult for you to answer, is that in the 2016 audit report, this was pointed out. Was any action taken by the region and the REO to address the issue raised in paragraph 662?
Through the chair, responding again. My knowledge is one of the officers out to the 14 is entitled, that is present, she is presently our acting DRU. For the others, no records I have found stipulating that they are entitled to rent-free. What was did in terms of writing them, asking those that are occupying to pay rent, which they are doing, which I was identifying earlier. 9 are currently in the currently paying house rent. 7 persons who are written to, 2 vacated, and 2 officers are presently entitled to house the house.
Rent-free.
Rent-free, that is.
And you have documents for
Yes,
for these.
we have documents.
Whatever. Oh,
Members, I put paragraphs 567 to 577 for our consideration. Oh, yeah, sorry.
664.
Go ahead.
Can we ask a question on 664, Mr. Chairman? This is again the problem that we've seen in other regions to do with checks. This is where valued at 76.2 million, but was still on hand as of September 2017. 148 of these were still not encashed or not deposited in the consult fund. Could they, as this is one where the audit office is recommending the payment into the consult fund, could the REO say if these 148 checks totaling 48.5 million were deposited in the consult fund and when?
Noted. Through the chair, all checks were paid out and the unpaid checks were refunded to the consolidated funds. One moment to find when it was. Just one moment I'm asking for.
Yes, thank you.
Let me reiterate, paragraph 667 to 677 are for consideration.
I got question 661.
Yes.
So what I have through the chair, what I have present here are the deposit slips for different years, like 2017, the 12 months, the 15, and they vary when they were refunded.
No, just 664 says, so you're talking about other years. 664 says that the sub-treasury safe in June 2017 revealed there were 229 checks valued at 76 million in respect of 2016 payments, still on hand for items not supplies and works not completed. At the time of reporting September 2017, there was still 148 out of the 229 checks outstanding. So I'm asking the 148 checks should have been given to the consult fund So if sometime after September 2017, they were hopefully handed in to consult, could you say when? Or if there are any outstanding?
Through the chair, in responding, I was advised in the year 2017, the 12th month, the 15th.
December the 15th,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's the balance of 148 checks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Mario?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may refer the REO kindly to 661 to public hospital study, where the examination revealed that the store's ledgers for the drug fund were not updated. And there is no proper accountability for stock in place. And the second part, analysis of the CRIVs showed that quantities of drugs and medical supplies requested are not always supplied. Two things here, Mr. Chair. In the updated response said that the store's ledgers for the drugs bond at public hospital study are still not being updated as required. So one is, I know that the REO is handicapped with 2016, but if she could shed any light as to what was the situation then, and as to whether there was ever a reconciliation between the monies that were sent back to the ministry to purchase drugs, the drugs that were received, whether there was any reconciliation there, as it is saying here that there were shortages. So that's one. And two, whether the ledgers are being updated and what systems are in place that we do not have the 2021 audit report reflecting these same inconsistencies.
Noted. Through the chair, in response to the ledgers, we have a system in place now where staff is assigned duties, so we would not reoccur those unnecessary practices that are incorrect. At present, with the reconciliation, to my knowledge, I would want to ask that our RHO have a little input, if that is okay through the chair in terms of responding.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, Regional Health Officer, Region 2. Our reconciliation for the year 2016, I would have tabled a letter to the Regional Executive Officer seeking a reconciliation from the Ministry of Health. To date, we have not gotten that. However, for the fiscal year 2021, we have the monies warranted to the ministry. So far, we are getting reconciliation from the ministry presently. But we did not get any for 2016.
To the chair, so your stock ledgers or your bid cards are being they're up to date?
Yes, Mr. Through the chair, we had a system where we had staff assisting with these ledgers, but we have managed to employ a staff directly responsible for entering in the ledger stock that are from the regional bond, the study hospital.
Thank you. Chair, if I may. So there is also an answer that was given that to date obsolete items have not been disposed of. Any update on that, Ari?
Okay, through the chair in responding, I'm not sure what would have happened directly in 2016, but as of now, what we did is that we would have wrote the Ministry of Finance seeking approval for a board of survey, specifically identifying 3 members, and we have submitted same, awaiting response. So from there, as soon as response is given, we will take the necessary action to address these matters.
The same would hold for the charity hospital.
Yes.
Thank you.
Member Maipo, you have the floor.
Sir, may I ask the Auditor General, how old is this? This briefing notes, how old is it? How updated is it? No, his briefing notes. Because remember, we're guided by his briefing notes, the response from the REO, and the Auditor General's report. Madi?
Ario, AG?
Mr. Chair, we would have prepared this with the notes when we had about a couple of months ago, about 3 months ago.
So, okay. So to prevent a future question like Mr. Maipo, could your office put a date on the briefing notes? Thank you.
Clarity was needed because of the answers that I provided and what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
So I will forego what I was about to ask and go to a different request to the REO. In terms of paragraph 662, can the REO provide us with the date these 14 persons began living at these quarters and the designation of the persons at the time when they began to live at these quarters? And currently there are 13 persons who are occupying these quarters without paying rent. Well, the word currently here is with reference to 3 months ago. I think you answered, but for my sake, can you tell us how many persons are living at the quarters and are not paying their rent?
Okay, through the chair, just repeating, I would have mentioned 9 persons are currently paying house rent, 7 persons were written to, 2 vacated, and 2 officers are entitled to the rent-free quarters.
So the 7 persons that were written to, why were they written to? Because they weren't paying rent, or they're not supposed to be in the quarters? Or are they written to vacate the housing facilities?
My knowledge, they were written to commence payments.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
I was asking, just to follow up on that response, sir, the persons that vacated, are they still employed with the RDC?
Okay, one moment. Let me just double check with the HR.
Okay.
And their designations too, if they are.
Through the chair, I was just advised that the 2 that is vacated are not the RDC staff.
So, Chair, with your permission, so there are 76 living quarters in Essequibo, Region 2. And if my calculation is correct based on what you just indicated, 9 are paying, 7 were written to, and 2, something you said about 2.
2 are entitled to rent free and 2 were vacated.
So 9 and 7 is 16. And so 18 homes alone, or 18 living quarters alone, are occupied of the 76.
Can I issue it? How many of these quarters are habitable and are occupied?
76 living quarters.
I mean that it is habitable.
If I can add to, through the chair, we have some vacant quarters as well. And yes, of course, some of it needs to rehab, it needs current maintenance and so on.
So of the 76 REO, how many are currently occupied in total?
One moment. Okay, and through the chair, in responding to the question, 18. Yes. To give you an accurate answer, sir, I will have to recheck and do a follow-up on it. Even though I have the list present here, I don't want to give you numbers that are incorrect.
So Chair, if I may, could the REO provide us with the information as to how many quarters are there, how many are habitable, how many are occupied, how many people are entitled to live in these quarters rent-free? Give us a breakdown so that we can
REO?
what's going on.
Through the chair, yes, I can do a follow-up. Even though I have some information here, it needs to be edited to specify what you're asking for.
Okay, can you provide that information by email to the clerk, and then we circulate it to all members?
Yes,
Would a
yes,
week
Mr. Chair.
suffice? 1 week be sufficient?
Sure, no problem, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. In addition to Mr. Maipaul's request.
Okay, noted.
And I'll ensure that the clerk provides you with the email address so you can send that via the internet.
No problem, noted.
Members, I put the remaining paragraphs for consideration. One other thing, Ario, for the request, besides it being sent by email, the committee would request that you send 25 hard copies as well for all members of all that is requested so far. Right? Thank you.
Noted, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Thank you, sir. I refer the REO to 66667. And in this update that we have, it says that 247 advances valued 18.335 million remains outstanding. One person have 2 advances. Is there any update to that?
Through the chair, presently, we have a total of 117 advances that were cleared, totaling 184 remaining. To my knowledge, we are following up at the office to have these remainder cleared. And in terms of giving a person more than 1 advance when they have advances that are not clear, we are not following that protocol. We are not practicing that.
So how much money is still outstanding?
One moment. Outstanding is 17,938,183.
So what steps are we taking to recover?
Through the chair, in recovering same, I know we would have tried to meet out to these staff that has these advances to be cleared. A few of them would have addressed same, and we are waiting response from the others.
So you say reach out, were they written to?
Yes.
So if I may share, are all these persons still employed?
Through the chair, I'm being advised by our chief accountant, no.
How many are still employed?
Is it possible, Mr. Chairman, can we provide this as a follow-up information for you?
Yes, 1 week, right?
Yeah, and what steps are we taking to those who are not employed? Those who are employed, you could maybe let them pay from their salary or whatever.
And is that being done though? I mean, like on a follow-up on Dr. Maria's question. If they are still in the system working with the administration and they're being paid, has there been any effort to deduct part of their payment to satisfy that position of overpayment?
Mr. Chairman, I was just advised by the chief accountant, yes, those actions were taken.
Okay.
So how many persons are still unemployed and hold this money as against how many are not?
Through the chair, I seek to follow up on that information.
AG, you have the floor.
To the chair, I'd like to bring to the PAC and to the RU's attention, to bring to her attention the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act Regulation Section 9, Section 8 and 9, which speaks about recovery of advances. Therefore, REO, for those who are still on the job, the amount should be deducted over a period of time from their salary. Pardon?
REO, you're so guided.
Through the chair, yes, AG. Thank you for the guidance.
Chair, I think
Chair, I was
That's my question.
asking if there has to be an agreement with, because I think I remember, and I stand corrected, that there was a court case on this same deduction of salary from staff members without their permission.
this
I
speaks about
stand corrected.
Section 8 speaks about the recovery payment of advances.
So it,
So the FMA gives that authority.
so I
It
know,
can
but
be
one says that an
deducted.
agreement can be met with.
She has to write, the REO will need to write to the officers, indicating to them the amount, when the amounts will be deducted. If they don't respond within 10 days, then she can go ahead and deduct the amounts from their salary to over a period of time.
So Chair,
Yes, FS.
there's no need for any agreement when you read the regulation. There's no need.
And agree to take the overpayment.
No, I'm just simply ensuring that you do what is right, because I think
No,
but
the
I-
FMA gave her the authority. Give all
but I
of
believe
the
there was a
authority.
court case along that same line where a judgment was passed. But I stand corrected. I'll have to, and at least we can endeavor to also seek to know whether.
No, but the FMA are give clear guidance with respect to.
No, but then if they
What
even
is
say that
legal?
there was a court case where the matter
Yeah, but the
was
court
judged
case,
on.
you could have any court case, but the last takes precedent, and the FMA are give guidance to the authority to deduct. So
665, Chair.
go ahead.
Can I ask the REO, I noticed that in 665, the appointment letters for the 5 members who are not presented for audit scrutiny. This is the composition of the Regional Procurement and Tender Administration Board. Can I ask, how were the members of the tender board appointed for this current tender board that is in place?
Through the chair, the new tender board appointment letter was done where in my possession, I have here where the Minister of Local Government would have wrote MP TAP for approval and of which they responded.
No, the procedure in terms of 3 of them should consist of 5 members, 3 members appointed by the National Board and 2 members appointed by the Regional Administration. That's what the Procurement Act states. So I'm asking if the procedure to get the 2 appointed from the Regional Administration, what was that procedure that was used? Were the 2 elected by the Regional Democratic Council?
Through the chair, I'm so advised, yes, they were.
And who advised you?
My EPMA. Ms.
Can we have the
Kofi.
minutes for that meeting where that was done provided as well? For the election of those 2 members of the RDC to the tender board, can we have the minutes of that provided to the PSC?
Okay, noted.
So I just want for reiteration and would appreciate the REO's answer that she's indicating to the Public Accounts Committee that the procedure that was used for the composition of the Regional Procurement and Tender Administration Board, Pomeroon Supernam, Region number 2, was one where the Regional Democratic Council at a statutory meeting elected 2 persons to be a part of the Regional Procurement and Tender Administration Board. And after that election, the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board was written to, and their letters of appointment were sent to the chairman of the tender board, who is the REO, and the persons began to function as members of the tender board. Am I accurate with that?
Mr. Chair,
Hold on. Ario, based on the members' deliberation, are you accepting that is what you're agreeing to had happened based on the advice given?
Through the chair, no, Mr. Chairman, I will have to do some further research on that to be sure that that is accurate, that it came from the RDC level, because my evidence in front of me is showing the creation of it, but I don't have an attached minute that you're asking for.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, member Mike.
Sorry, but the REO just said that she was advised by her staff next
Yeah,
door.
but she wants to verify based on how you would have articulated it.
So can we also give her the 1 week period to present?
Yes, that was already given.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
665. Can the REO also in the process of researching advise the PAC as to how the board was, what process was carried out in 2016 to establish the board?
That REO, could you provide the minutes for that appointment of that board as well? All right, within a week's time.
Mr. Chair.
You have the floor, Ms. Member.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, looking at paragraph 680, sir.
Yeah.
Capital expenditure, Mr. Chair, paragraph 680 reads that the regional administration had still not recovered amounts totaling 4,482,000 that were overpaid on the following projects for the year 2010 and 2012. The year 2010, the rehabilitation of the La Union Cremation Road, 552,000. Also in 2010, construction of Akawini Primary School Annex, 1,194,000. 2012, construction of the Teachers Quarter Akawini Annex, 1,785,000. And also in 2012, the construction of Ulili Primary School, 951,000. The current, I know the accounting officer is new, but being prepping for this meeting, I need to know from the accounting officer what is being done currently to recover these sums, because this has been a recurring matter in all of the reports. This is a matter from 2010 and 2012. I want that, Mr. Chair, I have some follow-up questions to that also. Let me just indicate one time.
Go ahead, Aria.
Noted through the chair, at present, based on research preparing for same, I would have found letters written on various dates and occasions to have these money, repaid, and no positive response thus far.
We have records from from when? When were these letters written, the dates of these letters that were recovered?
March 2017. The 14th of July, 2017. February 14, 2017. And it would go back to 2011.
So we have documentations were found from 2011.
One moment. No, not for 2011, sorry.
Okay, so not 2011. My follow question, is this more than one contract, several contractors here, or we're talking about one contractor? Who were these letters written to? The total sum of 4,482,000. I broke it down into the 4 projects that was undertaken, 2 in 2010 and 2 in 2012. Were all 4 of these projects to the same contractor?
Through the chair, no. You had 3 different contractors.
On the letters written, the various dates you have, how many contractors were written to?
All three.
So all three of the contractors were written to at different dates. There were no letters sent out at the same time to these contractors. I believe four dates were given.
We have 3 dates I can tell you offhand here. March 30th, 2017, where all three were written to.
All three were written to in March 2017.
Yes.
And others were written to more than once. I'm trying to see what system is being implemented to actually cover this money.
Besides writing them, there were also public notice in the paper asking them to come meet the region to address these matters as well.
Okay, so my other question is, you're saying it's 3 contractors and we are looking at 4 projects, 2 from 2010 and 2 from 2012. So I am assuming that one or more of these contracts, at least one of these contractors would have gotten contracts in 2010 and in 2012. Which contractor was this?
So we have 2 projects awarded to 1 contractor.
Which contractor is that?
Am I allowed to call name? Just asking for clarity.
The construction company. You can call the company. No, it was the company, ma'am.
Building Construction Service.
Could you say that again?
Suraj Building Construction Service.
And that contract was in 2010 and 2012?
Both 2012.
Could you just give me which contracts those were for?
Construction of Teachers Living Quarter, Akuini Annex, construction of Ulydale Primary School, Karok, Pomeroon River.
Could you go that again one more time? Sorry.
Construction of Ulydale Primary School, Karok, Pomeroon River, construction of Teachers Living Quarters, Akuini Annex.
Ulydale Primary School.
Fourth one.
Akuini Living Quarters. Teachers. Primary School. Okay. So, if I may get some clarity, the overpayment from 2010, even with an outstanding balance from 2010, the contractor was again given another contract in 2012?
The 2 projects for 2010, that is 2 different contractors. The 2 that I just listed, it's 1 contractor and the year is 2012.
So that contractor was given both together. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
You have the floor, member.
670, sir.
Go ahead.
We're dealing with 2016 contracts. 670, 671, 672 seems to be suffering from the same situation, just different projects. The overvaluing of the actual works completed when making interim payments. If a contract, Mr. Chairman, is to be paid on measured works, and the administration is paying to the contractor monies that have not been allowed because of better materials or works on site, it's basically a loan you're giving the contractor to get the work done. Could the REO, the accounting officer, explain to us what led to the payments of interim certificates beyond actual works? Who authorized these payments? And what action was taken since the Auditor General
has written about this situation?
Through the chair, in response to Mr. Edgel's question, I am very sorry I'm not knowledgeable of 2016 and why those practices would have done. So I would not be able to give you an accurate answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I agree the REO or the accounting office is a new person, could any member of our team explain to us what obtained in 2016 that allowed for the payment of interim certificates beyond work that was done?
Through the chair, if I can respond again, my technical advisor is not in a position to give an accurate answer as well. Reason being, he was not the regional engineer at the time.
Thank you. Follow up. Could at least someone tell us the process that is used for the authorizing of interim payment certificates so we could follow the trail of who would be held responsible for facilitating these, not just in one instance, but this has been a practice, as you can see in the Auditor General's report. We need to find out who facilitated this. Let's get the process. Could somebody advise us on the process?
Through the chair, I'm asking permission for our regional engineer to respond.
Sure. Yeah, 2016. The system in 2016.
Go ahead, sir.
Through the chair, the system used then is that measurements would be done. And the engineer certifies the payment and then processes the payment certificate.
The engineer certified the process without the involvement of the works committee. That's what you're saying?
The works committee checks off the final payment, but for
the members asking for the entire process. You cannot state a process with exclusion of the works committee who's involved in the process. So if you could go back and list the entire process for the committee, that would be most helpful.
So the process now, I can't say
not
for
now, then you are a part of the regional administration. Even if you have not signed off on this particular project,
yes,
there would have been projects that you would have signed off on because there were only 2 regional engineers, of which you were one,
yes,
and you would have signed off on several other projects. So what is the process for those signing off of those payments?
So the process is that as the works progress, the engineering team visits the site, they do measured work, and with the involvement of the works committee and other technical members of the engineering department, the payments are, the evaluation is being done, the contractor signs off and so on, and then it is being processed for payment.
Mr. Chairman, the situation that we are looking at has several implications. Let's look at 672. It was up to the Auditor General said it was observed that the regional administration was overvaluing the actual works completed when making interim payments to the contractor. In this instance, the regional administration has made payments in full. Payments in full for works which were either still in progress or in some cases which had not commenced in its entirety. So full payment is made for works that are incomplete or for works that didn't even start, but all the money pay out. At the time of physical verification on the 11th of May, 2017, further, the contractual completion date expired since September 2016. and the works were incomplete. No extension of time was noted at the time of the physical verification. And I noticed the Auditor General said the contractor should therefore be liable for liquidated damages. There are two questions here, Mr. Chairman. One, I would like the REO, if she has not been able to get the information, to research this information. Because if the Auditor General is suggesting that liquidated damages be charged, liquidated damages, as I understand it, could only be charged on an existing contract. And in this case, the contract was not even extended. The contract time had already expired. All the money paid out. So even if you charge liquidated damages, the authority, which is the regional administration, could only deduct liquidated damages from an excellent contract with some still owing. So this can't be a liquidated damages, it's got to be a suing. Because I could only charge liquidated damages if I got money in the contract, and I'm deducting because of time elapsed. Number one, the contract is expired. And number two, there's no money to do the deductions. How are we going to recover these monies? And the works are incomplete. And as of today, have these works been completed, and how much did it cost to get completed from 2017 to now?
Accounting Officer.
Through the chair, in responding, I would not be able to accurately advise you why this had happened in 2016. And I was told that the work has been completed.
Do we know how much extra it costs? Is the same contractor completed it with the monies that were paid, or we had to get another contractor?
Through the chair, I was told that the same contractor completed it, and at a final cost of 166, sorry.
So hence the question, was this payment made to facilitate the expiration of the contract? Because you can't pay on a contract that has expired. So to avoid an extension, was the money paid before the contract expired, and then the contractor has his time to finish without a legal extension?
Accounting Officer.
Through the chair, I would ask for some time to follow up on that question to be able to answer you accurately.
Thank you. Sir, I am expressing grave concern
Comrade
about this. Yes.
The time that you're requesting Accounting Officer, will the 1 week be sufficient to provide the answer?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Comrade Ejiri, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm expressing grave concern because I've been advised that the then Accounting Officer is not available for this hearing this morning. And just to indicate that we had started examining this region with the then Accounting Officer. And I'm finding it, this is one of the regions that had to be sent away to come back. And the Accounting Officer is not present this morning, not available. The then Accounting Officer of 2016, Mr. Hopkinson, to be correct. Sir, I go to 673. The contract for the construction of a bridge At Marlborough Health Center, Low Pomeroon was awarded a sum of 6.943 million to the second lowest of 4 bidders. The engineer's estimate was 8,056,000. The contract was signed on 7th of July 2016 with a start date of July 2016 and a completion date of October 2016. The full contract sum was paid to the contractor for works completed. However, the original scope of works under the contract catered for works mainly to the construction of a timber bridge, perimeter fence, and revetment. But it was discovered that the entire contract sum was used instead to construct a larger length of timber revetment sections. This is the issue. No bridge or fence was constructed as was originally stated in the contract. In addition, no approval variation order was seen for the significant change made to the scope of works, which was actually completed and paid for under the contract. There's a lot of things wrong here. So a contract is awarded to build a bridge, do some revetment, and a fence. The Auditor General goes to this health center. You don't see the bridge, you don't see the fence, and he's told only that the revetment was done. And we did more work on the revetment than was initially anticipated. That's a nice explanation. But in order for that to happen, they have to have a variation order and they have to have an agreement for the contract scope. None of that was available. Could somebody tell me why that happened? And what is the normal process to facilitate these kinds of changes? Because when a project is announced, Mr. Chairman, the people expect bridge, fence, and revetment.
Yeah. Dario?
Through the chair, in responding, unfortunately, I don't know why this would have occurred in 2016. I know the best practice is that we need to seek approval, written approval from the regional tender board for changes within the scope of work and so on.
And
so,
the minutes didn't show anything because the Auditor General didn't find anything. Have your research shown anything since the Auditor General visit?
No, sir.
Who was the engineer that signed off on the project? Were you the engineer who signed off on the project?
No, sir.
So, Mr. Chair, based on what we've established earlier, the Works Committee would also have to sign off on these, is not so?
That is correct.
So we're saying that the Works Committee signed off on these because the prior paragraph that we dealt with in 672, we're talking about overvaluing of actual works completed. Again, the Works Committee was in place. We've established before that the Works Committee was fully functional in 2016. So they would have signed off on the overvaluing of actual work. And again, they're signing off on another issue here, is not so?
To the chair, that was the process outline, but in terms of verification of who signed up and so on, we would need some time, maybe 1 week to verify.
But we've already established, Mr. Chair, that if there was an issue, if there wasn't a signature, it would have been showing up here in the Auditor General's report because that would have been a glaring issue. It is not here. So we're only left to assume that the Works Committee did sign off. The Works Committee that was put in place by the RDC is signing off on the overvaluing and these overpayments. That is what we're to assume. Yes. We don't need documentation for that because I can only say that the report that I'm looking at right now, if the Works Committee did not sign off, that would have been a glaring issue in this report.
Yes. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Yeah, but I want to ask to look at the recommendation of the audit office, which is the crux of the matter, is that this was that works are retendered when there is an entire change in the scope of works to allow for competitive bidding and fairness. So this, as Minister Edgell said, there's several issues in the paragraph 673. One, of course, are the variations without approval, change of scope of work, etc. But this is where the response of the regional officer is that this is an oversight. However, the Auditor General is making a very serious charge here to ensure that works are retendered when there's an entire change in the scope of works to allow for competitive bidding and fairness, and variation orders are prepared and approved in keeping with the conditions of the contract when there changes the scope of work. So that there are two recommendations here, both are very serious recommendations. So this is not just about the Works Committee, this is about where the regional administration is being called to book, whether it's the Works Commission or the engineer, they all failed in that they changed the scope of works without approval, and therefore the project wasn't completed as it's supposed to be. So there's been several violations here.
Mr. Chair, if I could just get some clarification.
Go ahead.
From both the Accountant General and the Auditor General, so that we will be able to settle this issue once and for all. In terms of the financial accountability of monies expended and signed off, the Works Committee, and we were hearing that the other day from the main city council or whatever, they serve more as an oversight and as a policy-making body to ensure that processes are followed and that there is transparency and the rest of it.
I don't think they go at the policy body, but more so of an oversight.
But the councillors, that's the Works Committee are made up of councillors, not of staff.
So where is it?
Where I'm going is, it does not absolve staff, paid employees
of their
responsibilities.
True.
And especially when you can produce minutes to show that this matter actually came to the Works Committee.
But the member Tisha has indicated that the failure is beyond the engineer, it also incorporates the Works Committee as well. So both parties are equally responsible for this overpayment.
Mr. Chair, I don't think you're getting me correctly, because we cannot conveniently at the PAC put blame to elected officials when in the FMAA, the person with the authority to ensure compliance is the REO.
Agreed.
And the REO is the
final
person,
signatory to that.
not only the final signatory, he has a right. Even if the Works Committee says pay, he have a right to say, I cannot pay based upon A, B, and C. So I don't want us to push the buck to the councillors when you have a system in place of officers who are statutorily appointed to uphold and preserve the public purse.
Agree.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, just for I think for the enlightenment of everyone, I think that eons ago, the Works Committees were established and tasked with being a oversight to help avoid this. And this is years ago. This is my Madam Chair could tell me when that was put in place. And what it was is that one of the advices that the Works Committees have been tasked with is that one of the members or more, physically visit the site or the project or whatever it is they're going to sign off beforehand. with or without the engineers, I mean, we can debate that. So therefore, the reason that they have been put there because over the years, all RDCs and NDCs as well as municipalities, there was this constant complaint at the PSC that the engineers would sign off on the REO or whoever it was signed off on. The members who are the elected bodies were unaware or were dissatisfied with the quality of work. So that I want to ensure that we know. So while we're not putting the blame on anybody, I was wondering why that was one of the recommendations that and I think the REO just said that has been implemented now. But that's the background to it.
Mr. Chair, and I hear Member Patterson, but there is a known fact that in many instances, REOs don't facilitate these works committees to visit locations. Well, whether it is an assumption or not, it's a known fact. So I am asking.
Okay,
I guess Member Mahaipal know exactly what happened in Region 2, so he's very passionate about it.
You want the floor, Member?
I happen to know as well. Yeah, they became animated about Region 2.
Don't let us make those assumptions.
It's not an assumption. I would like to have evidence on all of these violations where overpayments, well, not even overpayments, monies were paid up front for works not done, change of scope without variation. I would like some research to be done to show that the Works Committee of 2016 participated in this process.
Sir, that was already asked for, and the REO is committed to providing that. Yes, Member Teixeira.
Concerned that in 673 and 674, 675, they are all referring to one kind of behavior pattern, and that is working outside of the profile of the approval given for the particular work and or issue. So 673 we just dealt with, which deals more scope of work and change of program. 674 is where there appears to be no program. And yet the project for the construction NDC Council office at Evergreen Paradise was done outside of the profile, for which approval for inclusion of same was not presented for audit. And a similar thing with C675, where a person was hired without and payments made without budgetary provision. And I'm not sure where this comes from, capital or what, but this was paid without approval. The importance of the PS being here is that in both when he answers in 2018, he says this is an oversight. And this is not good enough language for any REO or any PS to say this was an oversight. A mistake, in other words, and flippantly say that these are violations of the procurement laws and the financial rules to pay for the construction of an office of the NDC without approval in the profile for the region, and to also hire a person without the approval. These are serious transgressions. In addition to 673, which is one in which, according to the Auditor General, this was a complete new works that was done without any coverage. So I really think that outside of asking for minutes of the Works Committee and so on, the REO has to be, the former REO has to be able to give better answers than this. Otherwise, every REO and PS will come before us and say, well, it's oversight. And I think that's a rather flippant answer to do with what are transgressions that should be seen seriously. At least if there was a flood, there's a disaster, there's something that made you do things that are because of emergency. In one case, they say it was emergency at work, but in 673, He answers the revetment was an emergency work, but he doesn't explain why is it an emergency work. Was there a flood? Was it that the seawater was coming in and flooding the area? Was it causing problems for the farmers? There has to be something other than emergency work. That's not good enough before the PAC. So I'm disturbed by the answers by the PS in writing, and I'm disturbed by what the Auditor General found that appears to not be taken seriously by the REO, not this REO, obviously. Can I just go ask, we started, Mr. Chairman, I just remember the last point. And that is when we began, they said there were 2 engineers, right? In 2016, 2 engineers. In 675, they said they hired a clerk of works. Is that in addition to the 2? How you got a clerk of works involved when you have 2 engineers?
There's always have a clerk of works.
Beg your pardon? No, I'm not saying, I'm saying 675 talks about hiring a clerk of works without approval and using monies that wasn't approved for that purpose. I'm therefore going back to the beginning that the gentleman responded to us saying there were 2 engineers in Region 2 in 2016. I'm asking now, as a result of 675, is it that there were 2 engineers and a clerk of works, and at what point was the clerk of works added to the regional administration?
Through the chair, in responding, I'm asking for those follow-up information to be provided as well, because I don't have accurate dates to give to the question.
But can I then answer? Because the answer the former gentleman says, the REO in his letter says the clerk of works is employed on contractual basis. The situation has since been regularized. So is there or isn't, or was there or wasn't there a clerk of works hired, which cost $535,900 in Region 2? I mean, the young man who was the engineer at the time, do you recall someone being a clerk of works? And is he still there, or has he gone? And how long did he work for in 2016?
Through the chair, I can't give an exact time of how long he served, but he was working with the engineering department, and he no longer works with us. We can feedback with that information.
Dr. Mahadio?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to add to what Gail said.
Can I hear you, Comrade?
So I just want to add to what Comrade Gail said, because this RE also did an oversight, was his explanation, when he used current expenditure to do capital work.
Yeah.
That's at 656, 657. That's the explanation given.
Yep.
Through the chair, is it possible for the question to be repeated?
Certainly.
656, 657, the explanation given here. Works done on chain link fence at Mashabo Primary School. Monies were charged. This is the explanation. The head of budget agency indicated this award was due to other contractors not having the capability, due to them having several ongoing contracts, and being charged the current expenditure was an oversight.
Through the chair, I would not be able to answer accurately on why this would have happened in 2016, why the protocol was not followed.
We have systems in place for this not to recur.
Through the chair, yes.
Dejira?
676B. to do with the gen set. The comments by the Auditor General that the purchase of the gen set for the hospital was considered critical in both 2015 and 2016 budgets. But as of July 2017, this was not, sorry, this had not gone through NPTAB approval. Could there be an explanation if at some point what happened with this in terms of did the genset arrive? Was the NPTAB gave the approval for this transaction? So in other words, you had the money of 2016 still holding in July 2017, 10 million for the genset wasn't purchased. It was in the 2015 budget. It was not used because of whatever, and then it was then returned and then put into the 2016 budget. 2016 budget, then they don't seem to have gone through NPTAB for 10 million, and up to July 2017, they had not drawn down on the appropriation account. But this was the genset for Oscar Joseph District Hospital was considered critical both in 2015 and 2016. Can anyone explain, or is there documentation to show why this important asset of the district hospital was treated in this manner?
Through the chair in responding, I don't have detailed answer for you, but I have a note. I was explained to that the generator, they did receive, the region did receive same, and it's in operation.
And it did finally get NPTAB approval? Could you check, Madam Ario, to see if having not got approval of, not gone through July 2017, 6 months after the end of, 7 months after the end of 2016, was this money put into the 2017 budget again? Because according to these notes, the genset, the note from the former REO says, however, the genset is en route to Guyana, scheduled to arrive in January 2018. So was the genset again put in the 2017 budget, having not succeeded in 2015 or 2016 in acquiring the genset? Or was it that the region was holding this money, which you're not allowed to, after the end of the year, to purchase this 7 months after the year had closed? So I'd like to ask you to look at it from that angle to see, if.
So through the chair, I noted, and I am asking as well to give a follow-up feedback on these questions.
Okay, no problem. 1 week.
Yes,
That would be sufficient?
I'll try my best, sir.
I would say, what was the cost of this NDC office at Evergreen Paradise? Do you have that figure? That the region spent without approval?
Through the chair, I will have to research that as well to have a figure for you.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't hear it.
Teamwork.
Yes.
All right, members, do you have any additional questions for the Ario and team? Okay, Ario, the commitments made to submit those information within a week's time. We trust that you would provide the PSC with those responses, 25 copies of each, as well as via email. The clerk will provide you with the email address for the committee. And on behalf of the PSC, we'd like to thank you and your team for making an appearance to the PSC and trust that you have a safe journey back to Region 2.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. Not on a line item, but in the absence of the former REO, would PSC be making any effort to get in touch with the distinguished gentleman so that he could assist the committee in answering these queries?
Well, yes. What the committee had done was to write the REO indicating that he should make an appearance. He did not make an appearance, nor did he respond to the correspondent. We will endeavor to do to write him again, and as well as write the Commissioner of Police to ask if he is in Guyana. All right.
Because I'm just concerned that the accounting officer tried to be as helpful as possible. And this was a region that was before the previous PAC and was sent away to come back with answers. And the person who should have been most helpful to the committee is absent. So I don't know how our report will reflect that we were able to be satisfactorily answered and the matters adequately distilled in the absence of the distinguished gentleman who served as the accounting officer.
I understand, but the report...
Mr. Chair, just simply, the REO set out that you will provide answers. The REOs, like any other agency, when the answers are provided, responses, PAC will examine it. And if we find anything wanting or inadequate, PAC will address it at that stage of point. Because it seems to be as though by making those statements, you're preempting the diligency of the search that will be done by the Region 2.
But that is not excusing the fact that former REOs and PSAs are obligated to be here. Agreed. I don't want us to be excusing that fact and being circuitous about how we get the answers. The person to be here to answer is the person who was responsible for the sector.
Yes, and I'm indicating to you, Honorable Member, that the PAC would have made efforts to make contact with those accounting officers. They failed to show up. And efforts will be continued to be made to ensure
it's a pattern now that is developing.
Those accounting officers account. Thank you, REO and team, for making an appearance. Members, we will break for lunch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Good afternoon.